Sharing my garden with all of you on YouTube means I need to share the highs and the lows. But seriously, doing a mid-August crispy garden tour didn't sound that exciting. So we are going to do a tour, only it's going to have a little bit of a twist. I hope you enjoy it and follow along. Hello everybody, thanks so much for joining us today. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Let me take a few minutes to introduce myself to you. My name is Lynette. We are gardening in New York State, Zone 5, and we have been here about 17 years now. When we bought this property, it was a basic empty field. So everything you're going to see today, we have placed. We have planted all the trees. We decided where the sidewalks are going to be and the patio is going to be. And basically, we have planned everything. And when I started my YouTube channel, I thought my viewers, you, might be interested in learning my thought process and how I designed this. Now, I'm not a landscape designer. I have no background in this. It's just something that I enjoy doing. So I did a series of videos on the thought process and how I went step by step from the basic surveyor's map to a scaled drawing that helped me place and decide how things were going to be placed on my property. If that's something you're interested in watching, there is a playlist on that, so you can check that out. One of the last videos I did in that series, and I do want to continue it, is I did a scaled drawing with a bubble diagram, and that basically tells you the concepts of where you're just thinking of things that you want to do or places you can't put things. And in today's tour, I thought we would take a look at my bubble diagram and compare that to what actually happened in the garden. For those of you who like maps, or for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about when I'm saying a diagram and a bubble diagram to make it even further, this is what we're looking at here. You can see I have my property line. We have wetlands. Our property is surrounded by wetlands. Here's my driveway, my garage, and my house. And this is roughly to scale. So I drew in my permanent fixtures first. When we first bought the property, we obviously knew where the property line is, we knew where the wetlands were, and then when we placed our driveway, I was able to measure and calculate where that goes on my map. From there, I just started doing some ideas, some thoughts, and you're going to see that I needed to make access. I wanted access throughout the whole property for a vehicle to get through. I needed to allow for snow, because we have a lot of snow here that we need to deal with. I knew that I wanted to have screening from the road. This is the roadway here. I wanted to screen from my neighbors. I don't need to screen around the wetlands. That's all Mother Nature's doing. It's here. Oh, I knew that I wanted to have a patio, a pond. I knew we were going to have a shed. We're going to put on a back porch. And then I knew we needed to have a sidewalk from the house, or from the garage, from the driveway to the house, from the driveway into the garage, and from this sidewalk to the patio in the back. And from there, I just started doodling and figuring out things. I knew I wanted to wrap the house with some sort of landscaping, and I knew my perennial garden was going to go in this area here. I also made note of where east, west, north, and south is, because that makes a big difference as far as where things are going. But that's basically my plan from when I started all of this. There were no trees on the property, no shrubs, nothing. It was just a field of grassy and weeds. As we're driving down the road, coming to our property, we are on the left-hand side. There's a hedgerow of crab apples, the wild orange daylilies. There are some Annabelle hydrangeas in there. And then in the spring, that is loaded with thousands of daffodils. And that is the blockage so that you cannot see our house from the road. As you come down this extra entranceway, you can see on the left-hand side, we have the hedgerow of arborvitae that divides us from the neighbors. And we're going to walk down this extra roadway here, or pathway, so we can get in and out with the tractor. And we are going to walk on the inside of the crabapple road blockage here, because I do want to show you something here in the garden, because this is a tour after all, and I want to share those fun things that come up unexpectedly. John was in here pulling off the daylily scapes. And what I mean by that is the daylilies send up these long scapes, and there were thousands of them in here, and it looks really ratty. So you go in and you pull them out, and it makes it look a little nicer. But when you come down here, he found something while he was out here pulling scapes that pretty much basically stopped him in his tracks. I don't know if you can see that there, but that is, it looks like a bald-faced hornet's nest. So we definitely didn't want to get tangled up with that, and that's why those scapes are still there in the garden. All right, let's keep going here. So again, this is blocking our view from the neighbors and the neighbors' view from us. And as we walk along the edge, we're going to turn and look at the house so that you can see the huge trees that are keeping it nice and shaded during this hot, hot weather. Those are river birch. And we're going to go continue walking along the front here. The Annabelles are looking so nice. But you can see things are not a pretty color yellow and a bit crispy. The mailbox planter, looking pretty good. And we're gonna walk around here and pretend that we are entering from the driveway. And you can see the garage. And then over to the right, we continue the road blockage with more crab apples. And as we're pulling into the driveway, we're all amazed and going, oh my gosh, it looks so good. And we have the sidewalk that leads you to the front door. We're going to walk down the sidewalk here. And you can see you have a choice of two ways to go. There's a split. You can go to the front door. We're going to go this way. And then we're going to turn around. And head back, because nobody answered at the front door, because we're always in the backyard. And then we're in the patio area. And you can see it's lunchtime, so we're eating, and we stopped mid-track of doing some deadheading. Here you can see the patio, and on our diagram we have the pond, because I wanted a pond in here, and then over time we've added the little pavilions, gazebos, whatever you want to call them there. And then as you go this way, you can see in the center of your screen is the shed, and then we are at the back of the garage. Now, a lot of what I plan has to include winter because we get so much snow. And there's a video on how we handled all the snow we got last year. as you come back through the patio, you can come back up onto the back porch. And then you can see the perennial gardens, which are not looking their best. There are some highlights in here, I will say. So we're gonna walk and take a look at those. We still have some nice daylilies in bloom. Things desperately, desperately need to be deadheaded. This area is not looking too bad. Nice drought-tolerant plants in here. The verbena, black-eyed Susan, the grass, echinacea, calamintha down in the front. If you're looking for drought-tolerant plants, that's really good. Did you guys see the butterfly? I'm going to try and get it if it will land. We have a monarch. We're just going to take a few seconds and enjoy the good side of Mother Nature. And we're going to overlook all the crispiness. That's why it's so important to have things blooming this time of year, even though it can be a bit of a struggle. Like I said, there are some things that are still looking pretty nice. Got some of the honeysuckle. That's a surprise little twist. Hopefully it's not a stress bloom. Now in our diagram, or in our bubble diagram I should say, I just drew a basic oval shape for the perennial garden, but it is actually like a big W shape. And as we go over on this part of the garden, you'll be able to see a little bit better. Trying to get some good flower pictures that aren't too terribly wilted at this point. All right, let's see. Okay. In our diagram, like I said, we just drew a big oval shape for the perennial garden, but it is actually like a W. And you can see how it goes back and comes out this way. And then when you go back around the other way, you have another loop for the W. And then when you're at the house, you can sit on the back porch and you can look at the view of the perennial garden. So let's see if I can show you what that looks like. That's my favorite spot to sit. But this is the view when you look out from the back porch. Even though we're in droughty conditions, my containers are still looking good. I'm watering still about once every 3 days. If it's beastly hot, I'm trying to do it every other. And they are my homemade self-watering containers. So there's a video on that if anybody wants to learn how to do it. Anyway, back to the perennial garden here. intersecting the W's, there is a walkway with the arbors, and you can walk down through here. And in the center is a pond. And you can go this way, and it will take you to the backyard. But we're not going to go that way yet. I'm going to go back around this way. The phlox is looking a little droopy, but the hydrangeas are doing good. Okay, we're back out towards that other part of the W. We want to go back around this way and show you this side, which is my shade garden and hosta garden area, or one of them, I should say. You can see just how crispy things are. But I've got to be honest, I'm not worried about this. This happens every year and my plants survive this. But one thing that's still looking pretty good, not 100%, but pretty good, are the hostas in here. I can see some are getting a little crispy, but some of them are still nice and green. They desperately need to be deadheaded. And then the view of the back of the garden here's that hedgerow from the neighbors. And if you were to come down that utility road that we put in when we first started the video, you could come down that. That provides access to the gardens here. And I did tuck in another little garden here. Just this past year that was put in. And then we're going to go around the back of the perennial garden. We have access that we can get into the neighbor's yard, or they can get into ours if need be. We have great neighbors on our street, so we have no problem with going on each other's property. As you come along the back, this is going to be the DEC wetlands along the back border of our house. And this, you see this whole pile of stuff? That's all those daylily scapes that we took off from the front. It was two gators full. You can come down here. This is the back, the woods. So we can't put any buildings back here. So basically we just mow to the edge. And then this is the back of the perennial garden. We've got some crabapple trees to give us some height and interest. Because again, remember, there were no trees on this property when we moved in. This was just an empty hayfield. And let me know, one thing that's growing really, really well, even in the drought, is the crabgrass. That's doing really well. The back of the garden here. The allium is doing nice. There are some nice lilies that are handling the drought. And then up in the back, behind the lilies, is the Boltonia, and that is just getting ready. Well, it's starting to open right now, and that's got to be about 6 feet tall, and it's going to be covered with tiny, tiny daisy-like flowers. We're going to continue along the outside edge of the perennial garden. We've just about completed half of that W shape. And then you can see the walkway that takes us back to the little pond that we went around. We're now on the back of the perennial garden. You can see the DEC wetlands to the left of us. And you can also probably tell that we are now on the sloping part of the yard. Therefore, it was a little hard to build anything. The perennial gardens were pretty much placed where it was level. Here's the little back pavilion where we started my video. You can see it's all still set up from when I was videoing earlier. And then we continued down the slope. We have our burning pit on the left, and then the DEC wetlands in the back here where the sheep are. And we're going to go down by the sheep and turn around so you can get a look at the lay of the land and what it looks like when you're down here in this lower section. There's a stream where that tall grass is. And that is looking up from the sheep. So it's quite an incline. It's not bad walking. You can definitely mow it. But it's just enough that it does add a nice bit of mystery to the garden when you're coming from this end. We're back by the pavilion, and you can see the back garden there, the shade garden with the great big huge hostas. We're going to go take a look at those, because realistically this is one of the best looking parts of the yard right now. I hope you guys are finding this interesting. It's a little strange trying to do a plant tour and a design layout kind of a thing at the same time, but I'm hoping it works okay for you. This part of the garden is the shady part, and it's still relatively looking good. It's the back of the perennial garden. Some of the hostas are starting to get crispy, but you will notice that the daylilies are an awful lot greener, the ones that were growing in the shade, than the ones that are out in the full sun. We're coming around the outside edge of that other part of the W. You can see the back of the garage there. And then we're going to turn this way. You can see we have an entranceway. This is kind of a utility space that you can get in and out of the garden with a vehicle if you need to. Very important, especially during snow season. The back of the garage, the little shed, and then you can see the greenhouse that I haven't used as a greenhouse in years. Again, you can see the slope. There really wasn't much you wanted to build on this. And then this is the side yard that's loaded with clover for the honeybees, which we have a very shortage of honeybees this year. And you can see how crispy the grass is. When you drive in the lawn, your tires leave tracks. We're on the side of the garage. This is the other side of the little shed. Come over this way, and you can see the neighbors across the street. But we do have some crab apples planted. That gives us a little break from them. And then as we come back around the side of the garage, we are almost back where we started. Now, it may look a little bare because there's really nothing planted here. And there is just big open lawn space here as well. If we didn't live in snow country, that would be filled in. But when you live in snow country, you have to leave space for snow. And that's why these are all open like this and not really landscaped with things. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a video on how we handle snow. Check that out and you'll understand. I also wanted to take you around this way. So when we started our tour, we went down the sidewalk. We're now walking along the outside edge of the garden. You can see the hostas. Surprisingly, they're doing okay. They're starting to get a little crispy, but it's not too bad. The begonias look beautiful. Considering all these things are growing under these water-sucking river birch trees, things are still looking pretty darn good. You can see the river birch is dropping an awful lot of leaves. Get out here with a leaf blower and blow that off. But we're coming back around the side of the garden, back to that little utility road that we talked about. We're back to my hosta garden and my leaf pile. And then we are back in the backyard. So that's our little tour around. Like I said, things are crispy. It's not looking that good. But I'm hoping that this little tour gave you an idea of how the property is set up. There's a hydrangea that's looking pretty good. And then the back of the perennial, or it's not the back of the perennial garden, it's the front and side of the perennial garden. I hope this answers some of your questions as far as how the property is laid out. I know some of you have asked for more views so that you can understand. I wish I had a drone. It'd be a lot nicer if I could just put that up in the air and show you what it is. But we just have to do it the old-fashioned way and walk it. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe and share. Leave comments. And I will see you in the next one. Get out in your garden and have some fun. And as far as watering, my garden doesn't get water this time of year. The only thing I'm watering are things that I just recently planted or are new this year. After things are in a year, they're on their own. There is a watering video. Check that out if you're interested in seeing how that goes. Otherwise, get out in your gardens, have some fun, and send some rain our way. Have a good day, guys. Take care.